now we're going to get into the clean part that comes right after the second chorus. Let's go ahead and take a listen to it. And it does repeat later on. We're going to go ahead and take a look at what's different on that part in a moment. Let's go ahead and start with the first 8 measures of this part. So as we can see right away, we have some interesting notation going on in some of these chords right here that captures some of the extensions that Avenged Sevenfold is using to get these interesting sounds. The riff starts on a D minor, which is the 1 of D minor, moving then to the G7 with a 2 extension, which is the 4. We then move on to a G major add 2. Typically in the key of D minor, the G would actually be a minor G, given the fact that it's 4 away from D minor. However, in this case, the B is natural, making it a G major. And at least for these 3 measures, you could almost consider this natural B modulating the whole passage here to C major. But I'm not going to look at this so much from a standpoint of modulation. Also, the add 2 is up here, as we have the 2 of G major in this A as well as here, and also in the bass notes here. So basically, if you're factoring in all of the information right here, you could look at this whole passage as a G major 7 add 2. Moving on to the next measure, we have what I would say is a C major 7 add 2. The 2 coming from the use of the D notes right here, and the major 7 coming from this B natural, which again is an indication that temporarily we're more in the key of C, even though we're not looking at it that way right now. We then get into this very strange measure here, where we basically observe my best attempt to categorize all the notes that we see here. The add 2 comes from these notes here in the bass line that are E's and up here as well. The major 6 comes from this B natural right here. The flat A right here makes this D a diminished D instead of a D minor. And now that I'm looking at it, this double flat 7 right here would actually mean a 6 anyways, so this is a little bit redundant. We could just write it like this. Again, with something like this, there's a lot of room open for interpretation, so this is just one possible shot at it. We have an A minor 7 here with this B natural giving us an add 2. That carries on to the next measure for a total of 2 measures. 4 coming to rest on the F major add 2, which again makes me want to interpret this whole passage from the key of D minor opposed to the key of C major, given the fact that F major is the relative major of D minor. And the way MuseScore is notating this is kind of strange, but you could view this as a sus2 chord because there's no third and a root and a fifth. Also, the bass line is roughly outlining an F major as well, being the 1, the 3, 1 again, the 7, the 1, and the 7 respectively. As a quick correction, looking at these last 2 measures in the first time around for the clean part, I am thinking that these whole 2 bars are actually sus2s as well, given the fact that for both of them, an A note is nowhere to be seen, whereas there is a G note, instead only having a G note, which would make it a suspended second. You basically then have the whole part repeat. As you can see, there are a couple differences here. The bass part's a little more active right here underneath the D minor. And while this is technically the same, I decided to notate this D diminished chord differently with a double flat 7 instead of a natural 6, just a different way to say the same thing. And finally, we have a different movement coming in here. Now, as we can see here, we pretty much have the same thing minus the bass being a little more active right here, as well as an inharmonic notation to say a natural 6, which in this case is a double flat 7. I left that here just to show it. We do observe a difference here though. When accounting for the fact that the bass is playing an F way down here, we can imagine that there is an F note right below the C, that'd be here roughly. From that, we can say that the F is still the root of this particular measure, denoting the F, which then moves back to the F, which is its octave, before finally climbing up to the G, which is its second. And just like before, because there are no A's to be found in here, we would say that this is a sus2 again, specifically an F sus2. So basically, these last 2 measures are the same as they were before, even though we have a different movement going on here that builds a little bit of anticipation as we get ready to transition back to the part that I've labeled caught.